Hey guys, it's Jack. Before we begin the podcast, I have to start with an apology. We had some technical difficulties during this episode, and there was a large chunk of time in which Ethan could hear us, but we could not hear him. As a result, much of his input was unfortunately lost to the void. Super sorry about that, dude. I swear we'll get our shit together for next time. Also, this episode was recorded a couple of months ago, but due to demands in my work schedule, editing took much longer than I would have liked. Sorry about that. I've already got a good chunk of the editing done for the next pod, so I swear it won't be too long before the next episode. Alright, that's all I've got. Enjoy the podcast. Here we fucking go! Welcome back to CollaboRadio, folks. We are so glad to have you back for episode 6. Today we have Steve, known as ThinkFishTank.
Hey, what's up?
Ethan, known as EMP.
Oh, yeah.
We have Milo, also known as Sapien Alien.
Hello.
Hello. So glad to have you. And we also have Dom, known as Riverman.
Yo.
Nice.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I believe this is the first time we've ever had Milo on the pod, yeah?
Yeah.
Welcome, Milo. We're glad to have you here on a special episode about Steve's new album, Moments. And Steve, you said that you mentioned a little bit about this in our last pod.
Yeah.
But that you were kind of throwing together this album where you didn't take too much time with each track, but you were just really focused on capturing these specific moments in your life. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's kind of a good way to put it. Is, as you notice, playing through the album, none of these are like super long tracks or anything like that, and they're all, they're not super complex either. Because I was trying to like kind of jot down. It's sort of like a musical journal in a sense, where I would like try and capture these feelings in the moment. And of course, I went back and did a lot of production stuff on them and worked on them over course of a couple months there. But yeah, I tried the best to like put together a song as I was like feeling whatever it was, because I really wanted this album to be about like these moments in my life, which was over the span of 5 or 6 months or something like that.
Very nice. I really like the concept a lot.
Thanks.
What inspired that?
Honestly, like I didn't really set out to make a new album or anything like that. I was like dealing with a lot of emotional stuff, which I guess depending on your art and depending on who you are, like sometimes different emotions are more inspiring than others. And unfortunately for me, it seems to be like negative stuff is that I try to like push that out by working on music. So I've found a lot of the times that I am really productive and inspired, it's because like I'm using it as a distraction for thinking on and dwelling on like darker things. So I went through kind of some emotional stuff in the spring and summer and stuff like that. So music was a really awesome opportunity to get away from some of that stuff and be productive. So a lot of stuff came from it that I wasn't planning on writing a lot of this stuff, and there's stuff I used some older stuff that I had been messing around with that I hadn't, found a tone for, and, took that and developed it further. And it kind of all came together pretty quickly once I decided what I was going to do. But then the problem with me is, I'm very busy in the summer with my other career. So I didn't really have much time to really work on making it sound good until the fall came around. But the tracks themselves really came together quite quickly.
Yeah, that's awesome, Steve. I love that you managed to just really boil all these moments in your life down to their essences and just not to dwell too much on them, but to get them together. I find that I have a big problem when it comes to making stuff, in that I always focus way too much and like stress over like how it sounds, and that's kind of why I've never released anything yet.
Right, it's tough, man. It's like it's just like any art. It's like it's never done. Obviously, you just have to stop working on it. And I always have that trouble when I'm working on albums. But just make it as good as you can without stressing over it. And that's such a fine line I've noticed, and I think other people can relate to that.
Yeah,
I suppose it's helpful that it's an in the moment thing. Obviously, moments. Because it's like you guys have said, like you're actually hindering yourself in trying to get it to this perfect image that you have in your head. But I suppose the act of working on it in the moment means that once you capture the moment, it has some benefits, and then once the moment's gone, the song's more or less done.
Right.
So you kind of get the best of it.
Right. Yeah, it does become kind of like you're trying to capture something that happened in retrospect, and it's definitely the further away you are from it, the less you feel it, if you know what I mean. So if the closer to like something you want to translate into a song from feelings or from something that happened, the closer you can do it to that moment, the more real it's going to feel, I guess. You're right. That's kind of what I was kind of shooting for there.
Yeah, you don't want your interpretation of the feeling after the fact. Like you're trying to remember the feeling.
Yeah, so it evolves, right?
What you actually do is like just a recollection, which wouldn't have the same effect.
Sure. Yeah, it becomes something different. But, nothing wrong with that. But yeah, you're right. It's like the song we worked on, which we'll talk about later, we started it in like February or March. I can't remember what it was. And then, finished it in November. So it's kind of like it definitely evolves. And in that circumstance, I don't think it was a bad thing. I think it was pretty cool how that worked. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
So were there any particular moments from this album that really stood out as, I guess, highlights of those 6 or so months that you were working on this?
Yeah, I think probably the one that's the most palpable is the first song, which is just an introduction. But it basically I don't want to get in like too much detail because I feel like that's boring to the listener. But I kind of went through like a big breakup after 4 years, so it was kind of like pretty impactful and kind of sudden. And the first track, it starts with like a voice of basically like a voicemail phone call.
Hey buddy, going old fashioned. I couldn't type fast enough. Yeah, it does.
That was actually my best friend calling me basically when he found out when I had messaged him. So that is authentically like him, and you can't really necessarily make out all the words he says, but you can sort of just feel the emotion in it. So that song is kind of impactful to me, and I'm not going to forget about that feeling because it has been preserved like in his voice in that song. So I thought that was really neat. I haven't actually told him that I used his voice, and I hope he's not really the sort of guy that would go out of his way to like volunteer or something like that. But I just thought it was so awesome that I had to use it.
Nice.
And so I stole his voice, yeah. But I thought it was like a perfect way of kind of like setting up the beginning of the album, because that was kind of like the beginning of me writing all this music. So
yeah,
that's definitely the most genuine emotional thing on the album, I would think.
I think that the sound of that telephone, that voicemail, does kind of give it authenticity anyway. It does sound really neat.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Thank you. That was a song I'd been working on for a little bit beforehand, just sampling an old video game called well, now I don't even remember the name of it. Oh, that's
549.
What was it was this old strategy PC game that I played as a kid, and it had like this orchestral music, and I'm gonna think of it before the end of the podcast. But I just sampled just tiny bits of like there was like a singing, like a cappella singing section in this one orchestral song, and I was just sampling that and cutting it up. So I had just been like sitting on those samples for a while. And then it just seemed to perfectly fit the mood of like that voicemail and everything. So that came together super, super easy when I figured out like what to do with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it when the samples just kind of come together.
Oh yeah.
Because it doesn't usually happen that way. Were there any other tracks that you were like, oh yeah, this all just kind of came together? Like I finally got to use these samples I've been wanting to use. And
oh, that's a good question. Let me think about. I think my favorite sample, or favorite track involving samples was it's called "Sleepless." In parentheses, Android's Dream.
Oh yeah.
Because I sampled some Damon Albarn, vocals and like guitar and stuff like that, and I wrote the bulk of that song in one night, because I was pretty inspired, and it was like one of those where it just came together. But I just love the sample where he says like it just says Android's Dream, which is what do you call it, like an audiobook of do androids dream of Electric Sheep? Yeah. Okay, yeah. And it was just basically the guy reading the title of the book, and just cut out the word Android's Dream, cut out those 2 words, and I just love the sound of it. It's like really punchy, and I was so happy to find that because I think it makes the song.
Yeah. Wasn't this one of like I feel like you released a version of this on SoundCloud a few months back?
An old version of it. Yeah, I'd been sitting, that was the one I kind of like sat on for a little bit, and I think half of it was on SoundCloud, and then I wrote the second half to cleaned it up and wrote the second half for this album.
Nice.
Yeah. Jack, do you want me to just go through like track by track and talk about each one? This is kind of an aside right here, but
yeah, feel free to talk about each of these moments.
I think that might be the coolest way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, if you want me to just go right through, I'll tell you a little bit about each track, and you can play like a little snippet in the background or whatever. If that's like, I think that might be the most.
I can work that in. Yeah, absolutely.
So I've talked about the first track, the introduction, and how that kind of came about, and track 2 is called Moments in Limbo, which heavily samples the Art of Noise Moments in Love.
Oh yeah, I noticed that. That was nice little Easter egg.
Right. Which I thought it was clever. I mean, it's not really that clever, but I thought it was clever to use a song about love and then try it, like basically make it about the opposite sadness, So that song, I'm obviously like a big fan of those albums and the Art of Noise stuff, but like that song reminds me of my childhood for some reason. I think my mother must have had it on cassette or something, just that one song, not the album or anything, because it when I heard it like as an adult, I knew it was like from another time, like I had experienced it. So that song has always kind of stuck with me, and I've always wanted to do something with it. So that was kind of like that was a very palpable moment as well, where I just was sitting at home and just like kind of feeling like I had no purpose suddenly, which hence the limbo, right? And I kind of just whipped that up pretty quickly. It pretty much samples that, and I'm not sure what else without like listening back to it right this second, like what else is on there. I think there's some Lord of the Rings samples on there and stuff like that, but yeah. Track 3. Oh, this one was fun. We actually went over this because I played it on another podcast when I was talking about my new projects and stuff like that. I played, the original cut of it. I sampled Roger Taylor, who's got a very specific voice, and you can kind of hear it come through. He's a really nice voice. He wrote a theme song to this movie called Absolutely Anything, and I had watched it the night before writing the song, so that's kind of what was in my head when I went to put this together. So I think it almost exclusively samples that song. But I recommend listening to that song. It's just a theme to a kind of forgettable movie, no offense. It's a perfectly fine movie, but it's nothing to write home about. But the theme song is super beautiful, and like probably the highlight.
What's the name of the theme song?
The name of the movie is Absolutely Anything.
Oh, okay.
And it's starring Simon Pegg and a bunch of other English comedians and stuff. It's great, but again, the theme is incredible. So then we get to Android's Dream, which I talked about. Don't need to go over that one again. And then we get to the cool stuff. So this is where Milo can come in and give his 2 cents, because we get into the stuff that we collaborated on. There's basically this little interlude that leads into the song. The interlude was like kind of a last minute thing I put together. But the song itself is A Beat at Bedtime, which has kind of a cool story about it. And feel free to interject anytime you want to, Milo. But basically, I had a gig in New Jersey last, March, I guess, February or March. And
yeah, it was February, late, like the last couple of days of February.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought it was. Pretty close to around the border of those 2 months. And one thing I remember about that trip was like it was like had just snowed here in Maine, and like the further I drove towards New Jersey, like the less and less snow. And by the time I got there, it was like beautiful and sunny and warm, and it just like, I don't know, I could still remember that feeling of like driving away from the cold. It was kind of a neat moment. But Milo drove down to where I was, basically the town where I was doing the gig, and came and hung out with me, and we got lunch, and then we just like got a hotel in made music and just hung out in general. But the thing that came from it was these 4 synth chords that Milo wrote. Do you remember this, Milo?
Yeah, I had come with 2 synthesizers I had, and you had your SP404.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we even like said we were gonna like try to do anything specific, but you know, we were just playing around. Like at one point, you started like sampling the Fergie national anthem, that disaster that happened.
Yeah, that's all chopped up somewhere.
Yeah, and then at one point, I think we were trying to think of something if we were going to do anything. Like, what could we do? One of the synths had a sort of a way that I could get like a kick sound out of it, and I think you had sampled that, and then that's technically what closes the song.
Right.
Those last 4 beats. And then I think we wanted some other, you know, actual musical things. So I kind of tried to just wing these chords. I just tried to find these voicings and these 4 chords came together and we were trying to splice them up and see what happened. But I guess nothing really came of it so much. And I guess you were looking at it over the coming months, seeing how you could make something happen. And it wasn't until like a few months before you, maybe like only 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
That you actually like, before the release, that you actually said, you know, I have a little something with it, look at it and give me something else. And that's more or less how it went.
I'd actually done it a while before. I just had never sent it to you because I just forgot. But I had just taken the 4 chords and laid them out and like put some 8-bit synth on top and it just kind of make it bouncy. And I think that's all that I did and sent that along to you. And you're like, oh, this sounds like, I have like some ideas for this.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose I can't exactly say how the layout of the track went, but I know that first thing you did was, I suppose, something founded maybe with that kick. Obviously the chords, and then you put more of a beat on it.
Sure,
some actual drum stuff, and then that 8-bit thing.
Yeah.
So I came in at first and just laid some guitar and bass guitar down, and I tried to give you like options.
Right.
For like, because you only gave me that one. It was only one thing, so I tried to give you options.
It's pretty much like 8 bars.
Yeah.
Or 16 bars, or whatever it was. It wasn't like much.
Yeah. So I figured I'd give you options, and fortunately those options became 2 different sections, which was nice. And then you took that, and I guess you chopped it all up, which to be honest is my favorite parts of the song.
Oh, cool, man.
The bounce in that was, I felt very interesting, the way you kind of like navigated how to like interplay everything that I would have given you.
Right. Yeah, that was fun to mess around with. It just like take like your guitar stuff and like just like chop it up. But I think my favorite thing was chopping up the bass, which was really fun to like remap out the bass line in fun ways.
Yeah, because with the bass you get the whole chordal foundation,
right? Yeah,
kind of reshifted and everything. So yeah, but then like I guess you got 2 more sections out of cutting it up.
Right.
And that was more or less what became the entire song, just the arrangement of it. And then I think I did a few more things, like some just texture stuff.
Right.
One of which became the interlude.
Oh yeah, you sent me like this synth stuff, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And then I just wrote like a whole new 1-minute track or whatever with it because it was so cool. I was like, I gotta do something with this. Yeah,
because you had like I said, like there was enough there already. The drums, those original chords, the guitar, bass, and your 8-bit thing. But I was thinking like trying to like sort of fill in the gaps with some texture things, and I think I tried very quickly to just give you something and hope it would work, and I guess it didn't. or like,
which is fine. It's trial and error,
Yeah, it maybe just didn't settle the right way, but I suppose it worked out because you got the interlude out of it, and then I did another one, which is in the track,
right?
And then that was it. I did some more bass for what you did for the interlude,
and
then that's more or less it.
That's pretty much it. The irony of it is like those original 4 chords that you played are like so buried in the mix now you can hardly
Yeah.
make them out. But
Yeah,
it's
that's
cool
what
how
I was sort of laughing at it, thinking like,
Right.
I'm almost not sure what's in the track anymore. Like, did he put
Right.
other things in there that like I'm also missing? Because I just don't know.
Probably.
Everything's
There's probably
in there
some
or
other
whatnot.
stuff I snuck in. But I just thought that was cool. Like the evolution of it. It starts with like this one thing.
Yeah.
And that inspired me. And then that inspired you and just back and forth. And it evolved where it's like the 8-bit stuff I had originally written, it was by the end, it was all new, like not even any of the same stuff just because of how it evolves. Just bouncing back and forth. So that was really, really cool. I thought our process of working together was really cool.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how, like, I mean, we didn't have any game plan. I mean,
right.
I was literally playing those chords, trying to like just like if you hear them, more clearly and actually know how they work, they're like really weird, almost like jazz chords. They're
they are
really
weird
voicings
cool.
and harmonies and stuff. It sort of didn't seem that interesting originally anyway, but you needed it as a stepping stone.
Mm-hmm.
And of course we got this out of it. So it's weird how,
Yeah, dude. I'm pretty proud of it. I think it's probably the best thing on the album, probably, just because, or maybe it's my favorite thing on the album. I know those are probably two different things, but I think it's so much fun to work with somebody else and like not have to rely on your own vision or your own ambition to like create something cool. And it also, because I didn't make half of it, I enjoy it more. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, exactly. I kept saying that to you, like this feels so good. Because I mean, in a sense, I suppose I gave a lot of the instrumentation, but it was like giving you the perfect sample bank or something,
right.
like,
yeah.
It was almost like you could almost argue it's like cheating where it's like you just take those, those pre-done loops in like GarageBand.
Yep.
And you just block them out. It's almost like that. Like you just don't even have to think about it. Like I just like kind of, I don't know. I think to come up with all those parts took like maybe no more than 2 hours for me.
Wow.
So giving them all to you and you processing them from there probably took some more hours there on your end. But like you didn't have to like struggle finding the right thing. I already gave it to you.
Yeah, it's like custom samples. It's just like, I'm like, here, make something that fits here, and you're like, here it is. I'm like, oh great. It's like,
it's like having like a session musician, just like somebody who like knows how to like work. I'm not trying to compare myself to a session musician, but
no, it's fine.
like you just say what you want or what is going to be like most appropriate, and they just give it to you.
Yeah. I've never experienced that before because I'm not a musician in the traditional sense. I don't play music or anything like that. So me just like if I needed a bass line, I'd have to build it from scratch out of synths and stuff like that. It's so cool to just like have someone that can play bass and like the right things to do, and it was really neat. It was a fun process, and I want to do more of that because I think it came out really good.
Also, I just want to say that Milo's instrumentation sound awesome on that track.
Oh yeah, it's really kick-ass, the guitar.
And also your production complements it really well as well, Steve.
Oh cool, man. Yeah,
like I wouldn't really expect if you put it down on paper to put like guitar and 8-bit synths together and expect it to sound good, but it really does. It somehow just gels together real nice, like really naturally, even though they're not
that's
really
probably why
they're not really instruments that should naturally come together.
No, they rarely do, huh? I hadn't really thought about that, but
yeah, that's why I said that those sort of middle sections are probably my favorite because you somehow managed to like take that kind of chunking guitar thing and have those plucky 8-bit things and somehow make them kind of funky for each other. And
nice.
Like Dom said, it's like you don't expect those things to work, and it's somehow did.
Yeah,
maybe we got lucky. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It definitely, it felt like one of those things where it was like meant to be. It just came together so quickly and so easily. Like neither of us, I didn't feel like either of us worked that hard on it. You know what I mean? It just happened.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. I like that. But yeah, I think it's worth mentioning. I think this is the first thing I've ever written that doesn't have any traditional samples in it, which is kind of interesting. I mean, I felt like I was sampling because I was chopping up Milo's stuff, but it was fun to write an original song.
Yeah. I mean, I don't sample anymore, so it feels funny to like think. Like I almost don't like the idea of sampling myself. Like it feels like I like having that sense of accomplishment of like, oh damn, nothing here existed before we put the work in and whatnot,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I still like sampling, but
no, I mean sometimes it's like
styles.
It's the most ideal thing. Like I think part of it's realizing like you guys are like just more naturally inclined. I suppose maybe that's the musician's end of it. Like I don't think I was ever really very good at sampling compared to you guys. So maybe it's the mindset like I can't comprehend how to make samples work, whereas you guys can take a sample and somehow mold it into being a completely different musical thing that I would otherwise find hindering, which I suppose is maybe why the track came out as well as it did, because you know I was able to work freely for what worked for me, and then you could have worked in a sense more freely because the samples were like catered.
Right. Oh yeah, it's the perfect storm, to be honest. And like I think you had a really good attitude of it too, because I like kept like fucking up your stuff and just being like, you'd send me one thing and I'd be like, that was cool, but I'm gonna do this with it instead. And everything you're like, yeah, sure, do whatever the hell you want, which is cool, even though it's like your.
Well, that's the mindset you need to have when you collaborate with someone. It's just kind of like no extreme pressure to push it in any particular way. Just kind of see where it goes, and I think you'll naturally get better results that way, and obviously less conflict as well between the like two collaborators. Because like when I was like back in university, I had to collaborate with people. Some people had very specific ideas of where they wanted something to go, and then I would have differing ideas, and it just ends up turning into shit a lot of the time.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I think a lot of it has to do with distance too. Like when you're so far apart, there's no real contact. You have to sacrifice any kind of agenda so it can produce results that are pure at every step.
Yeah.
So
Steve
Steve let me have
exactly the same way. So yeah.
Yeah, like Steve let me have carte blanche when he sent me his like demo, and then when I sent it back to him, he had carte blanche to just take what I gave him and do whatever. Whereas people working together, I suppose also like people at your university maybe never worked with people before.
Yeah.
I have a project where we had never worked with each other really, and the first you could feel those first moments of like trying to like get something through could be tedious because it's like you weren't used to the person's tendencies or something, and you did want to expect something out of it, so it would be a little difficult. But then you start synchronizing, and eventually it lines up in a good way for the music. But it's good that we've all known each other for a long time, so it's probably also good that we have similar enough backgrounds, and we have sort of musical goals that align and whatnot. I'm sure you and Dom would talk about it for your tracks too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that settles out on that track. The next track was called New View, track 7, and I sampled a little bit poppier. I sampled the Coldplay song. It's from.
Oh yeah, I noticed that. Which Coldplay song was it?
It's called Fix You.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Which was a huge track, like early 2000s.
2005.
Yeah, but I feel like people haven't really talked about it in a while. I was watching Extras. You guys know that show, Extras, with Ricky Gervais? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's an episode where the lead singer of Coldplay helped me out. Nobody?
Oh, I didn't realize you wanted the name. I'm like, his name is Help Me Out? Like, it's Chris Martin.
No, I heard it like, name. The lead singer of Coldplay helped me out. And I was like, the lead singer of Coldplay?
Yeah, guys, sorry, I buried the lead on that one.
Chris Martin.
Yeah, Chris Martin. There's an episode that stars Chris Martin. And there's a scene where he plays Fix You, like, in the studio. It's confusing if you don't know the show, but in the studio where they're shooting the show in the show. It's a show within a show. So I was like, oh, that's like, it like hit me in that moment because I hadn't heard the song in like 10 years or whatever, you know? And I was like, oh, it's like really beautiful. The chords were. And so I found a live version of it because I thought it'd be a little bit funner to sample. Like
the live versions of that song are even more
it's really cool.
potent.
And basically, and at the time I was like really into just like super chopping stuff. So it's I don't know if it's micro sampling so much, but it's pretty close to that, where it's like syllables, just small fractions, and just chopping it up and trying to make a melody pretty much out of the vocals and the chords, like really finely chopped up. And it was really fun. I enjoyed making that. I think it was after I went to visit Pat, if I remember correctly, which was in March. I went to visit Pat for a little bit. And then then track 8 features my girlfriend, which is really exciting, my girlfriend Charlie. And I sat on this for a while. I think I wrote it in June. And I sat on it for a really long time because I sang on it, and I thought it sounded okay. I even sent it to Jack and Dom, and I was like, does this sound like music? And they're both like, yeah, it sounds pretty good.
I remember that, yeah.
And you were probably kind to me, but it is a little bit pitchy, and it's a little bit like I can sing okay, but I'm not a singer. I know how to hit notes, but I don't know how to hold notes, and I don't know anything like that. So it's obviously very amateur, which is
I think that just makes it more real, honestly. I think it gives it a sense of it's genuine.
Right.
There's a charm.
It's not
sure. As long as it doesn't sound brutally bad, that's all I was going for.
No,
I didn't want it to sound amazing.
I think it shows your personality a bit better as well, I think.
Oh, cool. Oh, nice. Yeah. That's actually good to hear.
So like if you like auto-tune the shit out of it, it would just sound like any other like pop track.
Right.
And
Which
that's obviously not what you were going for. Right. So yeah.
Yeah. Either way, like Jack was like, yeah, it sounds good, but like maybe it needs a little something else. And so like I tried recording, different octaves of my own voice and like trying to sync it up and have it sound nice, and I just couldn't make it sound good. So like literally 2 days before, I said to my girlfriend Charlie, I was like, do you want to sing on this track I'm working on? Because she's actually a pretty good singer. She's a million times better than me. And she was like, sure. She was like totally game, because she dabbles in music too. She plays piano and she's pretty good. She writes song lyrics and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, she has fun with it. And so I recorded her a couple times. We did a couple takes, maybe like 5 takes, and I just slapped it right on the song, and without even doing any real production on it, I was just like, oh yeah, that's like the right sound. Like it made it so much better just having her voice on there. So I was so happy I tried that, because I think it really makes it a ton better having her sing in those 2 different sections. And in the second section, she does like the lead on it, which is much better than me trying to do the lead on it. So I was really happy how that came out, and it got like no traction on SoundCloud, but when I posted on Facebook, like people loved it. So I don't know how to gauge when people.
Well, SoundCloud is broken and weird in all sorts of ways, so
you just
I feel like you can't really gauge too much on SoundCloud these days.
Yeah, it's all over the place. So that's that song. So shout out to my girlfriend for saving the day on that. And I'll probably have her on some stuff in the future, because it was really fun to work with her in a musical way. So track number 9 is called Just For You. And Brian Wilson has this song called Love and Mercy, which is a pretty nice song. And I found out about it. Obviously I've listened to Brian Wilson and stuff, but I hadn't heard this particular song for some reason. But I watched the movie, which came out a few years ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, called Love and Mercy, which is kind of about, I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but it's pretty good. And Paul Dano plays Brian Wilson as a young Brian Wilson, and it goes through him making pet sounds and everything. It's actually, they do a pretty good job of presenting it. But the end credits are over Brian Wilson playing Love and Mercy live, and I just like knew when I was watching the movie, I knew I had to sample it, because it's just so cool. his voice is just beautiful, even when he gets older, which he was, on the older side. And some singers, their voices evolve as they get older. Obviously, almost all of them do, and it's kind of cool to sample someone young and old, and because it's like a totally different feel. So I had sampled some young Brian Wilson, some Beach Boys and stuff like this, but this was totally different, and it's another one that's pretty finely chopped up, a lot of like micro sampling and stuff. And there's a little segment where I actually sample from the movie for a couple sections in there, and I was pretty happy with how that turned out. Quick little track. And then the final track on the album, track 10, is called Headed Home, featuring my good friend Dom.
Yeah.
And Dom, I don't know if you want to butt in here and talk a little bit about it. I can talk about how it started.
Yeah, you should start with how it started, because like there's two like very distinct bits to how this track was made, and it starts with you. So
yeah, I'll start, and then you can do the rest, I think. So I sampled this. There's actually a rapper. Believe it or not, there's a rapper from Maine who's kind of well known, at least in Maine, called Spose. And his music's all right. I dig it, but the production's really good. I forget who does his production, but there's a couple.
Chris Martin.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Martin. You got it, dude. Thanks. Or is it Brian Wilson? It's one of those two.
Brian,
So there's this song where it's like got a lead female vocalist, and it's a song called Nobody by Spose. You can check it out. That's featuring Watsky, which you might know. Watsky's pretty cool.
Oh, sure.
And I basically, it opens with this female vocal that I loved. I had been listening to the song for years. Like, just, it was like on a playlist that I would play every once in a while. So, I heard it a ton. And one day, I just decided to chop it up, as you do. Like you hear a song a million times and you're like, okay, I think I want to chop this up and see what I can do with this. The song opens with this woman just singing the word nobody twice. It's 10 seconds long. And I built this track almost solely on that, and like had kind of chopped it up so it was like really the different syllables of that one word layered out. And I had put together this little thing. It was probably a minute long, Dom, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, it was very short,
and
very simple.
It was pretty short and very, very simple. And I had sampled some other stuff, which I can't really remember now, but some sort of like some chords underneath it as well that were kind of like.
Yeah, I think it essentially comprised of the vocal chop, some chop chords.
Yeah.
A bass line,
yep,
a synth, and some drums, and that was like it.
That was it, yeah. And a pretty simple synth line and a pretty simple bass line. And originally I had put a Childish Gambino track over it. Like I had made it as like, I don't know, I just wanted to make a little hip hop beat. And then one day I was bored. I was on the road somewhere heading home. And I was like trying to think of inspiration for what to do with some of these tracks. And so I sent this to Dom and was like, is there anything you can do with this to make it sound good? Because it was very, very simple the way it was laid out. So yeah, Dom, if you want to take over from here, that's totally fine.
Yeah, so I got the track, and I think I initially made like a couple sections for it just right away, and just sent like a very rough draft to you. I also sent it to Ethan, who very wisely said that the track was too slow.
Okay.
I think you had it at like 80 BPM or something like that.
Yeah, it was pretty slow.
Really, really slow.
I think that was to match the Childish Gambino track, actually.
I bumped it up by like 10 BPM anyway.
Yeah, it helps.
So it's fast. It's faster than the original, and the drum beat in particular gelled a lot nicer once I sped it up a bit. And I mean, I started this track back in like July, and there was a lot of like very intense few days working on it, and then a long period of just not working on it at all.
Right.
So it sat unfinished for like 3 months of like not even like doing anything with it. So I think initially it was just those first 2 sections that I had made, and that was like it. And then eventually, after I'd like decided, I need to work on this again, I bumped up to like almost a full track. It's kind of hard trying to remember the process for this track, to be honest, because there's so many different things going on in it.
Yeah. I kind of want to know, because like, to be honest, like I made the first section of it, and then you pretty much took over from there. So I kind of want to know like what your process was, and like what went into it, because I would find that interesting too.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, because you just like, you don't even like pay attention to what you're doing. You're just making it, and then at the end of it, like, oh, I have something here. Okay,
that must be nice.
And that's kind of what happened with me. Like, I wasn't really like, I don't know. I was just kind of on autopilot with it for a long time. I guess I was just dropping samples on top of your samples and trying to make them fit. And I spent a long time just going through like my entire sample library trying to find things that would work with it.
Right.
And eventually I found like a few that did. So I took those, dragged them in there, messed them around with them a bit. I created like my own bass lines.
Yeah, the bass is really cool. I like that. It's very bouncy.
I also I used your original bass line as well in one section.
Yep.
I added a bit of like chorus effect to it to make it a bit I guess boomier almost.
Yeah.
Also, I kept your drums in there, although I added to them as well. I added a lot extra percussion to it, and I also added like beat shuffling effects to it, so that if you actually like pay attention to the drums in the track, it's not just a static loop. They are shifting and changing and doing little beat shuffles and things like that all the way through.
Yeah, that's an effect you used? Or
yeah.
Wow. How do you do that?
It's just like it's just a plugin that makes it's like beat shuffling, but it's quite flexible in how you can do it. So you can do it so it just completely fucks up the beat, or you can do it in a really subtle way where it just swaps a few little beats around,
right,
and makes it a little bit different each time. And that's what I did with this. And sometimes it works, and other times it doesn't, depending on the loop itself and how good the beat is and stuff like that. But in this case, it worked really well. So I was really happy with it.
Yeah, I was noticing that. Yeah, it does sort of hop around. It's pretty cool. I noticed that because that's one thing I struggle with is like keeping drums interesting. Because it's a lot of work to program unique drums for an entire song or whatever, and I get lazy with it.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yep, I think it's something a lot of people can understand.
Yeah. So yeah. What else? There's a lot of other effects going on in there. I added like a kind of automated filtering thing to the vocal chop, so that also stops them from being a bit too, I guess, static and repetitive. Because it's just like a little extra effect that changes the way the vocal syllables sound here and there, just because there's like a little dip in the filter, just when like the vocal hits and stuff like that.
It's pretty cool.
I think there's some delay on it as well, so a lot of reverb. Basically, I took your really, really simple minimalist beat and turned it into the most insane, like over the top thing ever.
Which is cool. I like that. It's two very different styles, but I think it worked out like really well. It's a really fun track.
Yeah, so like I think the way I did it, so the beginning of the track is more like what your track was in the beginning.
It's I like how you added that, where it's a nice way to like introduce it.
Yeah, so it starts out very much sounding like a ThinkFishTank track.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
and then when it gets further into it and my stuff comes into it more, I kind of take the wheel a bit more, and it becomes more like one of my tracks. And pretty much by like halfway through, there's really not much of your original track in there anymore. It just kind of goes off in its own direction.
It really does, yeah. Which is not a problem. I find that interesting. I think that's like,
because like I don't know, sometimes you get inspiration from a track that's actually not really related to the track, but it still works with it. And that's kind of what happened. So I just kind of like kept your beat going and put some different samples in there and made entirely different sections that weren't based on the original track at all, apart from just like the bare elements of it. The middle section, I guess, if you could call it a middle section, it has like an old disco loop in there. Yep. I think it's an Earth, Wind and Fire loop.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and there's also like, if you listen carefully, there's like some like kind of like, it's almost like a scratching effect, but it's a digital one. So it's like, it's actually what the sample is that I'm affecting is literally just like outdoor noise. Like it's nothing interesting at all. But once you apply the scratching effect to it and you put it with everything else, it creates this kind of like nice little. I don't know how to explain it, but it adds like an extra bit of something to it anyway. That I think it was cool.
Nice, dude. Yeah. I want to take a gander through your effects library because it sounds like you got some cool stuff that I need to be fucking around with.
Honestly, I mostly use FL stuff. But,
Yep.
Yeah. Also, there's like some like beat stops and shit in there, like where I cut the beat out and bring it back in again, which came out nice. And then there's the kind of like final section that had that with the beat, which brings in yet another sample. That one isn't actually chopped; it's just like a full loop of like some like 80s like pop thing that I found.
I can't picture that. I'm gonna have to go listen to the song again.
Yeah. And then like at the very end, there's like some record scratching solo thing that I did. Again, that's got quite a lot of effects on it. It's got a gate effect on it. It's got a stereo expansion on it. All that stuff. And curiously, what I was scratching with was it was this Aphex Twin record where he on the B side he just put a bunch of like noise tracks on them,
tones.
And they sound horrible. They sound fucking awful. But like, if you scratch them, you get some badass effects from it.
Oh, nice! That's a good thinking, dude.
Yeah. So like, I thought I'll do a scratching solo with this, and that's basically what it is. And it's why it sounds a bit strange, because it is literally like me scratching like feedback and weird like bass distortion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And yeah, then there's the very final section, which is more like an ambient outro thing. And I bring back the original vocal chop that you gave me, but I stretch it way out and reverb it and create some like weird like stuttering effects with it. Yeah. So it suddenly becomes, it's like the track just like suddenly goes underwater almost. And yeah, I pad that out for a little bit and then it fades out and that's the end pretty much.
Nice, dude. That was a great explanation. I love the going into all the details. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Deep dive.
Yeah, really.
I don't know how I remembered all of that.
That's pretty good, man. I know, because I was like staring at my tracks like as I was going track by track, trying to be like, what instrument?
I mean, I spent a long time on it, so.
Nice, dude.
So naturally, you'd remember a lot of the details because you spent so long on it.
Yeah, and I think I made a special effort with using like the effects and things. I wanted to kind of experiment with the track with different effects that I'd not used before, so that's why I remembered those things better than I would normally.
Awesome. So Steve, where can we get this album? I know it's on Bandcamp right now, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much, that is the only place to get it. So go to your local Bandcamp. It would be thinkfishtank.bandcamp.com. It's suggested price $5. You can pay more, whatever. But yeah, definitely go buy that. I would appreciate the support. But yeah, check it out. I've got other music. You can buy all my music for, I think, on Bandcamp, $12. You can buy everything I've ever made.
Holy shit.
I know.
What a steal.
I know. So think about that.
Steal of the century.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much my big plug, is go check out the album. And thanks for your support, guys. I really appreciate it. Everyone who every once in a while will bug me and say, like, you haven't released anything in months or years. So I'm still working even when I'm not releasing things, and I appreciate everyone sticking around with me even though I like go years without like a major release. So thanks, everybody.
Of course, Steve. It is a pleasure and a half.
All right, yeah. And, I mean, really, I think what I'm going to focus on from here on is collaborative stuff. And so hopefully our listeners will be hearing more of that coming up soon, like more collaborate stuff. And
yeah,
that's really my goal coming into 2019 is just bang out some cool tracks with you guys.
It's
remixing the old collaborate.
Yes.
Yeah. Whose voice was that? Was that?
That was Dom's, I think.
That was Dom. All right.
But yeah, on the next episode, we'll be going over Dom's new album, Faded Recollections. Very cool and spooky collection of tracks there.
Very spooky.
We'll go into another deep dive on that. We'll go into that more later. But for now, let's go ahead and wrap up and do our plugs.
Plug it.
All right. Steve, why don't you go first?
Thanks, man. Like I said earlier, you can check out the new album on Bandcamp. I'd appreciate if you guys check that out and give it a listen. Buy it if you enjoy it. And, check out all my other music on there. As always, definitely want to plug the CollaboRateMusic.com website. I actually just kind of went through and redid it, so it should not look like shit on mobile phones now. So feel free to check out the website on your phone, and it won't look like shit. That's my promise.
Yay for not looking like shit.
So new album, CollaboRateMusic.com. Oh, also, I'm actually working on putting together a live set, which is really fun. I don't know what I'm going to do with it or anything like that, but I kind of want some input from people who listen to my music. If you have a favorite Think Fish Tank song that you think would be a banger in a live set, comment below, because I kind of want to get an idea of what people think would work in that sort of situation.
Yeah, man.
So I've been working on that. It's a lot of work, because I have to rebuild everything in ways to make it be played live, but it should be cool. It's gonna be a process, but it should be cool. So definitely comment below what you would want to see if you saw Think Fish Tank.
My stuff is soundcloud.com/Riverman125. My Facebook page is Riverman UK Music. My YouTube is Riverman125. My Twitter is Riverman _ whatever that thing is. And my Bandcamp is rivermanmusic.bandcamp.com, which has a new release on it. So check that out, please.
Yeah. Go buy it.
Nice. Milo?
Google me.
Just Google Sapien Alien.
Just Google Milo.
The best I got. I don't know what else to say. I don't know. Just Google me. Stuff will come up if you really want to find it. I mean, I'm on Bandcamp and SoundCloud, but I don't really do much. So,
Ethan, what about you?
Search up Evil Man Penguin. No one stole my name yet. Nice. and I'll be there.
You'll just be there?
You'll be there.
You'll be there sitting, waiting for someone to respond to
like
him.
Beetlejuice.
Over your shoulder.
If you say Evil Man Penguin,
The second podcast in a row I've said that. And I'll probably say it on the next one.
My name is too generic. I got the same name as a fucking bassist in Brazil who said that he came up with his name before me.
Did you say racist?
No, bassist.
You kind of cut out there for a minute. I was like, what? Why?
Racist bassist is
racist?
Game Grumps thing.
Racist. A racist from Brazil. I was like, that's really oddly specific.
You mean Bolsonaro?
No, it's a bassist from Brazil.
We'll have to save that story for next time, but
can't wait.
Yeah, Steve and I have to be out of here in 5 minutes. So
we got a date.
You can find my stuff, the little of it that there is, on soundcloud.com/Jawka or at youtube.com/JawkaJabberwock. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun, guys. Sorry again to Ethan for all the technical difficulties. We'll see what we can squeeze in here for you, and we'll make sure that for the next one that everything is working as it should.
Nice.
And Milo, it was great to have you on the pod finally for the first time, and hopefully we'll be able to have you again sometime soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Next time.
Of course, man. Is there anything else anybody wanted to say before I roll that sweet outro music?
You forgot to say "Here We Fucking Go," I think, at the top.
So let me just say it real quick here, and then I can splice it and then put it at the beginning as if. Here we fucking go! All right, here we fucking go. with the show.
All right, now let's outro.
That was
Okay.
very authentic.
Here we fucking go with the outro.
Roll the outro.
Android Stream. Android Stream. Android Stream. Android Stream. Android Stream.
Has Ethan said anything? on this
I've
podcast?
said like 3 things.
A little, I think.
Ethan, say
little.
something.
Hiya, I'm Ethan.
Is he with us?
He's dead.
Is Ethan with us?
Came in for the
I said Chris Martin. I said Chris Martin
Shit.
3 times.
Yeah, Ethan, if you're saying anything, we can't hear you right now, man.
Ah, shit.
sucks.
I wonder if your mic is muted.
I think he just
Or-
left. I think that's what
Just
happened.
straight up left.
Or
He's like, "Oh,
he just
fuck
said
this,
fuck
I'm
this
going."
shit and then left. Oh no. Shit.
Oh,
Well, we'll catch up with him later. I suppose.
No one will notice. I mean, we
shit.
didn't notice, so.
Oh shit. Okay, so I'm getting a message from Ethan in text now. He's saying he was here for the entire thing. There's some curse words in there as well.
Just not talking.
Just say. So it says, I was here for the entire thing, and fuck. And apparently he was just kind of talking to the void this whole time. Oh no!
poor
Shit.
Ethan.
Really?
I'm sorry, Ethan. Oh no. Okay. So, damn it. Oh,
Oh
wow.
man, that means like every time he tried to say something, one
Yeah,
of us
every
was
time he
probably
say
talking.
something like he's like, why is everybody ignoring me? Shit.
Oh, we're sorry.
Oh
That's
no.
really funny.
Let's see.
Ethan, ask us a
Ethan.
question.
Are
Can you
able to?
even fucking hear me?
'Cause we can't hear you.
Oh.
I'll get on my Ouija board.
Is your mic still muted, Ethan?
Ethan,
No.
we're running out of time, buddy.
Yeah, dude. We gotta. Steve and I have to be gone in like 18
1
minutes.
second.
Hey!
Hey.
Ethan's back.
He's back for the almighty 1 minute.
Hey, Ethan.
Hi, guys.
Now's your time to come in and ask any question you want, because we've been ignoring you the whole time.
You guys didn't hear a single fucking word I said for the past fucking hour.
No, we didn't.
I'm so sorry. When Steve was like, what was the name of that what's the name of that
No one
couple?
answered me.
I was like, yeah, no, it's Chris Martin. It's Chris Martin. And then Milo was like, yeah, no, it's Chris Martin. I was saying out loud, yeah, it was Chris Martin. I said Chris Martin. And I was in my head.
Please send me your
I was
recording
like,
so I can hear this.
I was like, is something wrong?
Yes.
because the weird thing is, Steve heard me for the first half.
Oh my
Steve
God.
heard me.
Yeah, I know. I was saying, I could swear we heard you for introductions because I remember
Yeah.
saying, yeah, we have Ethan, known as EMP, and I thought you said something,
So yeah,
and then you just disappeared.
Who the fuck is the lead singer of Coldplay?
It's Chris Martin.
Chris Martin! You dumbass! I said it 4 times!
and then Steve was like, "Has anyone seen extras?" I was like, "Yeah, I've seen extras." And I was expecting Steve to say, "Oh yeah, nice." And I was like that's something Steve would say.
Actually, I'm pretty sure I heard that part. So Steve actually did ignore you.
Steve.
I'm sorry, man.
Steve.
Yeah, insult to injury.
Wow. I'm sorry for ignoring you, man.
My
I
God.
can't believe it.